Most people think confidence comes from knowing the right words. They believe if they just speak smarter, faster, more convincingly, people will finally take them seriously. But confidence doesn't begin with what you say. It begins with how your presence feels when you speak. You've met people like this. They don't rush. They don't over-explain. They don't fight for attention. And yet, the room listens. That's because confidence is not volume. It's not speed. It's not clever language. Confidence is control. The fastest way to sound more confident is to slow everything down. Not just your words, your energy. When you slow your speech, something powerful happens. You signal that you are not nervous about being interrupted. You're not afraid of silence. You're not chasing approval. Silence, used well, becomes proof of certainty. Most people rush because they're trying to get everything out before someone challenges them, before they're judged, before they're dismissed. Confident people don't do that. They trust that what they're saying can stand on its own. They let sentences land. They allow space between thoughts. They pause not because they're unsure, but because they know the weight of their words. Another shift happens when you remove unnecessary explanations. Over-explaining doesn't make you clearer. It makes you sound unsure of your position. Confidence sounds clean, direct, grounded. Instead of saying, I just think that maybe this could work if you're okay with it. Confidence sounds like, this is the direction I recommend. Shorter, calmer, stronger. Tone does more work than words ever could. You can say the exact same sentence and sound either powerful or powerless based on delivery alone. A calm tone tells people you trust yourself. An even tone tells them you don't need to convince. A steady voice tells them you're comfortable where you stand. Confidence is contagious, but only when it's quiet. Raised emotion makes people defensive. Calm makes people curious. When your voice stays level, others subconsciously match it. The conversation slows, the power shifts. And here's the part most people miss. Confidence is not about dominating a conversation. It's about anchoring it. You don't need to speak more. You need to speak with intention. Say what matters. Stop where it ends. Let silence do the rest. Pauses are not empty, they are loaded. A pause tells the listener, I'm not done thinking, and I'm not afraid to wait. That pause creates authority without effort. The fastest way to sound confident is to remove urgency from your voice. Urgency sounds like fear of being ignored. Calm sounds like expectation of being heard. And the moment you stop proving yourself, people start believing you. Because confidence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't explain itself, doesn't argue. It simply shows up, steady, clear, and grounded. And when you speak from that place, your voice stops asking for permission. It starts setting the tone. Confidence is heard before it's understood. Long before your words are processed, your voice has already sent a signal. People don't first evaluate what you say, they feel how you say it. Tone, pace, and presence arrive ahead of meaning, shaping perception before logic has a chance to catch up. This is why two people can say the same sentence and receive entirely different reactions. One sounds certain, the other sounds unsure. The difference is not intelligence or vocabulary. It's confidence being transmitted through sound. The human brain is wired to read emotional cues quickly. Before content is analyzed, the nervous system decides whether a voice feels safe, steady, rushed, or reactive. When someone speaks with confidence, the listener's brain relaxes. It assumes competence. It becomes receptive. When confidence is missing, even accurate information can be doubted. This is why people sometimes ignore solid advice, but follow someone who sounds calm and grounded even if they're saying less. Confidence is carried in pace. Rushed speech signals internal pressure. It tells the listener that the speaker feels behind, threatened, or anxious to be accepted. Slow, deliberate speech communicates control. It suggests the speaker is not competing for attention. They expect to be heard. This expectation alone changes how others respond. People lean in when they sense certainty. They disengage when they sense fear. Volume plays a role, but not in the way most people think. Confidence is rarely loud. Loudness often compensates for insecurity. True confidence sits comfortably at a level that doesn't push or pull. It fills space without forcing it. A steady volume tells the listener there's no urgency, no panic, no need to overpower. That calmness is persuasive. Then there's rhythm. Confident speakers vary their rhythm naturally. They allow pauses. They don't rush to fill silence. Silence, when owned, becomes authority. It signals thoughtfulness rather than hesitation. When someone pauses without discomfort, the listener interprets it as depth. The pause says, "This matters enough to take a moment." That message lands before the next word is spoken. Confidence also lives in breath. Shallow breathing creates tight, unstable speech. Deep, steady breathing grounds the voice. It lowers pitch slightly, adds resonance, and removes strain. Listeners don't consciously notice breath, but they feel its effects. A grounded voice feels reliable. An ungrounded voice feels uncertain. Again, this happens before meaning arrives. This is why confidence is heard before it's understood. The listener has already formed an impression before the sentence ends. They've decided whether to trust, question, or dismiss. Words then work within that frame. If confidence leads, words reinforce it. If insecurity leads, words struggle to recover. Over-explaining is another giveaway. When someone keeps adding clarifications, disclaimers, or justifications, the voice starts to wobble. It sounds like seeking permission rather than stating position. Confident speech knows when to stop. It ends cleanly. That clean ending leaves space for acceptance instead of doubt. Importantly, confidence doesn't require perfection. You don't need flawless grammar or sophisticated language. Some of the most confident communicators use simple words. What they have is alignment. Their voice matches their intent. There's no internal argument leaking through tone. That alignment creates trust. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance pushes outward. Confidence settles inward. Arrogance tries to dominate the listener. Confidence invites them to listen. This distinction is audible. Arrogance feels tense and loud. Confidence feels calm and grounded. One repels. The other attracts. Because confidence is heard first, it can be practiced independently of content. You can train pace, breathing, pauses, and tone before worrying about perfect phrasing. When those elements are in place, your words naturally carry more weight. People respond differently. Interruptions decrease. Questions change. Respect rises. Ultimately, confidence is a signal, not a statement. You don't declare it. You transmit it. And once it's heard, understanding follows more easily. When your voice leads with calm certainty, your message doesn't have to fight to be believed. Slow speech signals control, not weakness. In a world that moves fast and speaks faster, slowness is often misunderstood. Many people rush their words because they believe speed equals intelligence, urgency equals importance, and hesitation equals doubt. But the opposite is usually true. The moment you slow down, you communicate something far more powerful than clever phrasing. You communicate command over yourself. Control is felt before it's analyzed. When someone speaks slowly and deliberately, the listener senses stability. There is no panic in the voice, no pressure to prove, no race to finish before being judged. That absence of urgency tells a quiet story. This person is comfortable where they stand. They are not chasing approval. They are not afraid of silence. And that calm steadiness reads as strength. Fast speech often comes from internal tension. The mind is ahead of the body, pushing words out before they've fully formed. The result may sound energetic, but it also sounds reactive. It suggests that the speaker is being driven by emotion rather than intention. Slow speech, on the other hand, reflects choice. Each word is placed, not spilled. That intentionality creates authority. Slowing down also improves clarity. When words arrive at a measured pace, listeners can absorb them fully. Meaning lands instead of bouncing past. This makes the speaker appear more confident, even if the message itself is simple. People tend to trust what they can clearly follow. When speech is rushed, the listener must work harder, and effort creates distance. When speech is calm and paced, trust builds naturally. There's also a psychological effect at play. Humans subconsciously mirror each other. When you slow your speech, others often slow their thinking. The emotional temperature drops. Conversations become more thoughtful and less reactive. This shift gives you an invisible advantage. You're no longer being pulled into chaos. You're setting the pace of the interaction. Slow speech also creates space for pauses. Pauses are not gaps to be feared, they are tools. A pause tells the listener that the speaker is in control of the moment. It allows emphasis without raising volume. It lets important ideas breathe. Most importantly, it shows comfort with silence, which is one of the clearest indicators of confidence. Weakness sounds rushed because it's trying to escape judgment. Control sounds slow because it's not in a hurry to be validated. When someone slows down, they signal that they trust their message to stand on its own. They don't need to overwhelm or outpace the listener. They expect to be heard. Many people worry that slowing down will make them sound unsure or unprepared. In reality, it does the opposite. It removes verbal clutter. Filler words disappear. Sentences become cleaner. Even mistakes feel less damaging when delivered calmly. Confidence is forgiving, panic is not. Slow speech also lowers vocal pitch slightly, which adds perceived authority. A lower, steadier pitch is often associated with leadership and reliability. This doesn't require forcing your voice deeper. It happens naturally when you breathe fully and take your time. The body relaxes, and the voice follows. Importantly, slow speech doesn't mean dragging words or sounding monotone. It means intentional pacing. It means allowing each thought to complete itself. It means giving the listener time to stay with you rather than chase you. Control is not about speed, it's about direction. In moments of pressure, slowing down becomes even more powerful. When others rush, your calm pace stands out. It becomes a stabilizing force. It shows that you're not overwhelmed by the situation. That composure often earns respect before any argument is made. Ultimately, slow speech is a form of self-trust. It tells the world that you believe in the value of what you're saying. You don't need to rush past it. You're willing to stand in it. And that willingness is what makes slow speech signal control, not weakness. Fewer words create more authority. In communication, authority is rarely built by saying everything. It is built by knowing what not to say. Most people believe that adding more explanation strengthens their point, but in reality, excess words dilute impact. Authority comes from precision, not volume. When someone speaks with restraint, each word carries weight, and the listener senses intention rather than insecurity. The instinct to talk more often comes from uncertainty. When we are unsure how our message will land, we pad it with justifications, clarifications, and repeated points. This over-verbalizing signals doubt. It sounds like the speaker is trying to convince themselves as much as the listener. Authority does not ask for permission. It states, then allows space for response. Fewer words create clarity. A concise message is easier to follow, easier to remember, and harder to challenge. When ideas are cleanly delivered, they feel more solid. The listener doesn't have to search for the point, it's already there. This clarity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of authority. Silence plays a crucial role here. When someone stops speaking at the right moment, the silence that follows amplifies what was just said. It gives the listener time to process and absorb. Many people rush to fill that silence, fearing it will expose weakness. In reality, owning silence shows comfort with your position. It tells others you don't need to keep talking to hold attention. Short responses also shift power dynamics. In conversations, especially difficult ones, the person who speaks less often holds more control. They are not revealing uncertainty or emotional volatility. They are observing, choosing, responding with intention. This measured presence can disarm confrontation more effectively than lengthy arguments. Authority is also tied to confidence in being understood. When you use fewer words, you trust the listener to follow you. You don't assume they need constant guidance or reassurance. This trust elevates the interaction. It positions you as someone who believes in the strength of their message. Another reason fewer words work is that they reduce opportunities for misinterpretation. The more you say, the more angles there are to question, challenge, or distort. Concise communication leaves less room for confusion. It narrows the focus to what truly matters. Leaders and respected figures often speak this way. They don't explain every detail in the moment. They set direction clearly and allow space for others to engage. This approach communicates confidence in both themselves and their audience. It invites collaboration without surrendering authority. Importantly, fewer words do not mean coldness or lack of empathy. Warmth can exist in simplicity. A calm, brief response delivered with steady tone often feels more reassuring than a long emotional explanation. Authority paired with composure creates a sense of safety. Practicing restraint also strengthens self-awareness. It forces you to choose what truly matters before you speak. This internal filtering sharpens thinking and improves communication overall. Over time, your presence becomes more impactful because people know that when you speak, it counts. In moments of tension, brevity is especially powerful. Emotional situations tempt us to explain, defend, or justify. Short, clear responses prevent escalation. They keep you grounded and prevent the conversation from drifting into unnecessary conflict. Ultimately, authority grows from alignment. When your thoughts are clear and your words are few, your message feels solid. You are not trying to overpower the room, you are anchoring it. And in that anchoring, fewer words create more authority. Tone carries belief more than vocabulary. Long before a listener evaluates the intelligence of your words, they feel the certainty or uncertainty behind them. Vocabulary communicates information, but tone communicates conviction. You can choose perfect words, but if your tone wavers, the message loses strength. On the other hand, even simple language delivered with steady tone can sound deeply persuasive. This is because belief is not transferred through language alone, it's transmitted through how the message is carried. Tone reveals your internal state. It exposes whether you trust what you're saying or whether you're still negotiating with yourself. A confident tone sounds settled. It doesn't rush, plead, or push. It rests in the message. That rest signals belief. Listeners may not consciously analyze tone, but they instinctively respond to it. They sense when a voice is grounded versus when it is strained. Vocabulary can be memorized. Tone cannot be faked for long. This is why scripted speeches sometimes fall flat while spontaneous remarks resonate. The words might be polished, but if the speaker doesn't fully believe them. Conversely, when belief is genuine, tone aligns naturally. There's a steadiness that no thesaurus can replicate. Tone also shapes emotional safety. A calm, even tone invites trust. It tells the listener that there is no hidden agenda, no emotional volatility, no threat. This safety makes people more open to the message, even if they disagree with the content. Aggressive or defensive tones trigger resistance regardless of how logical the argument may be. In difficult conversations, tone becomes decisive. When emotions are high, people stop listening for logic and start listening for threat. A measured tone lowers defenses. It communicates that the situation is under control. This allows the conversation to move forward rather than escalate. Vocabulary alone cannot do this. A single sharp inflection can undo an entire well-reasoned point. Tone also determines credibility. People trust voices that sound consistent and calm. When tone fluctuates wildly, it suggests emotional instability or uncertainty. A steady tone suggests reliability. It makes the speaker sound like someone who has thought things through and is comfortable with the outcome. Importantly, tone doesn't mean monotone. Belief can be expressed with warmth, firmness, or compassion. What matters is alignment. When tone matches intent, the message feels authentic. Misalignment, kind words delivered with irritation, or firm words delivered with hesitation, creates confusion and distrust. Tone is influenced by breath and posture. Shallow breathing tightens tone, tension sharpens it. Relaxed breathing softens and steadies it. This is why grounding the body often improves communication more than rehearsing words. When the body is calm, tone follows. Listeners often remember how a message made them feel more than what was said. Tone shapes that feeling. A supportive tone can make difficult feedback feel constructive. A dismissive tone can make praise feel hollow. Belief travels through these emotional cues. Vocabulary can impress, but tone convinces. People may admire complex language, but they follow conviction. They align with voices that sound sure, calm, and present. This is why leaders focus on delivery as much as content. Ultimately, tone carries belief because it reflects internal alignment. When you believe what you're saying, your tone settles naturally. You don't need elaborate words. Your voice does the work. And when tone and belief move together, the message lands with power and authenticity. Pauses project certainty, not confusion. In conversation and speech, silence is often misunderstood. Many people fear pauses because they associate them with hesitation, forgetfulness, or lack of preparation. As a result, they rush to fill every gap with words, explanations, or filler sounds. But when pauses are used intentionally, they communicate the opposite of uncertainty. They communicate control. A pause signals that the speaker is not anxious about being interrupted or misunderstood. It shows comfort with the moment. This comfort is read as confidence. When someone pauses calmly, the listener senses that the speaker is thinking, choosing, and guiding the conversation rather than reacting to it. That sense of direction creates authority. Pauses allow meaning to land. Without them, words blur together and lose impact. With them, important points stand out. A pause after a key sentence gives the listener time to absorb what was said. It turns information into emphasis. Instead of pushing the message forward, the pause lets it settle. Silence also shifts attention. When speech stops briefly, listeners lean in. The pause creates anticipation. It tells the listener that something intentional is happening. This draws focus without raising volume or repeating points. It's a subtle but powerful way to command attention. Confusion, by contrast, sounds rushed and cluttered. When someone is unsure, they tend to overtalk, correct themselves mid-sentence, or add unnecessary detail. This flood of words reveals internal chaos. A clean pause, however, reveals order. It shows the speaker is comfortable waiting for their own clarity. Pauses also demonstrate self-trust. The speaker trusts that the listener will stay with them. They don't fear losing attention in silence. That trust elevates the interaction. It positions the speaker as someone who believes in the value of their message. In emotionally charged moments, pauses become even more important. They prevent reactive responses. A brief pause allows emotions to settle before words are chosen. This prevents escalation and preserves dignity. The listener often feels the difference immediately. The tone shifts from confrontation to control. Pauses also regulate pace. They slow the conversation naturally, lowering emotional intensity. This creates space for thoughtful responses rather than impulsive ones. In this space, clarity emerges. Importantly, pauses must be owned. An uncertain pause is filled with tension. A confident pause is relaxed. The difference lies in posture, breathing, and presence. When a pause is accompanied by steady breathing and calm body language, it feels intentional rather than awkward. Many respected communicators use pauses deliberately. They understand that silence can speak louder than words. A well-timed pause can emphasize confidence, signal completion, or invite reflection. Ultimately, pauses project certainty because they show that the speaker is not controlled by fear or urgency. They are choosing when to speak and when to stop. That choice is the essence of confidence. When silence is used with intention, it becomes a powerful extension of the message rather than a break from it. Calm delivery rewires how people perceive you. The way you speak doesn't just carry information, it shapes identity in the minds of those listening. Before anyone decides whether to agree with you, they decide who you are. Calm delivery quietly edits that decision. It signals steadiness, emotional maturity, and self-trust, and those signals land faster than logic ever could. When you speak calmly, people assume you are in control of yourself. That assumption changes everything. Control over self is often mistaken for control over the situation, and that perception alone raises your status. Others become more attentive, less confrontational, and more open. They don't feel the need to overpower or interrupt because calm energy doesn't invite competition. It invites respect. Calm delivery also changes how your words are weighted. The same sentence spoken with agitation sounds defensive. Spoken calmly, it sounds deliberate. Listeners subconsciously assign more credibility to messages delivered without emotional volatility. They assume thoughtfulness, they assume preparation, they assume confidence. None of this requires louder speech or stronger language. It requires restraint. Emotionally charged delivery triggers resistance. Even when the message is reasonable, heightened emotion can feel threatening. Calm delivery removes that threat. It creates psychological safety. In that safety, people listen more deeply. Disagreement becomes possible without conflict. Dialogue replaces defense. Calm delivery also slows perception of time. When you speak without rushing, the conversation feels less pressured. This gives your ideas room to breathe. People process them more thoroughly. They are less likely to misinterpret or react impulsively. Calm pace creates clarity not by adding explanation, but by removing urgency. Over time, this consistency reshapes your reputation. People begin to associate you with stability. They expect thoughtful responses instead of emotional reactions. This expectation becomes self-reinforcing. Because others approach you with less aggression, it becomes easier to remain calm. The dynamic shifts before the conversation even starts. Calm delivery also reframes authority. Authority is often misunderstood as dominance or intensity. In reality, true authority is grounded. It doesn't need to announce itself. Calm delivery embodies this. It communicates that you don't need to force outcomes. You trust your position. That trust is persuasive. Importantly, calm delivery does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional regulation. Feelings are present, but they are not driving the voice. This balance creates authenticity. People sense that you care, but you are not overwhelmed. That combination is compelling. Calm delivery also protects your message. Emotional spikes can distort meaning. Calmness keeps the message intact. It ensures that what you intend is what is heard. This precision strengthens influence. Listeners also mirror calm. Nervous systems sync. When one person remains composed, others often follow. This mirroring effect changes group dynamics. Meetings become more focused. Conflicts de-escalate. Your calm becomes a stabilizing force. Ultimately, calm delivery rewires perception because it changes the emotional frame through which everything else is viewed. You are no longer seen as reactive or uncertain. You are seen as grounded, confident, and trustworthy. And once that perception is set, your words don't have to work as hard. They land with authority simply because of how they arrive. Confidence grows when you stop proving and start grounding. Many people spend their energy trying to demonstrate worth, intelligence, or capability. They explain too much, justify their choices, and seek validation through constant reassurance. This proving mindset keeps confidence fragile because it depends on external approval. The moment feedback shifts or validation disappears, certainty collapses. Grounding, by contrast, builds confidence from the inside out. Proving is rooted in fear. It comes from the belief that if you are not actively showing your value, it will be questioned. This belief creates tension in communication. The voice speeds up, explanations pile on, tone becomes defensive. Even strong ideas lose power when delivered from a place of self-doubt. Listeners sense the strain. They may not know why, but they feel it. Grounding changes that dynamic. Grounding is the practice of settling into your body, your breath, and your position. It means knowing where you stand before you speak. When you are grounded, your voice slows naturally. Your words become fewer and more deliberate. You are no longer trying to convince. You are simply expressing what you know. A confidence built on grounding is stable. It doesn't spike or crash based on reactions. It stays present even when challenged. This steadiness is noticeable. People feel it in the way you hold silence, in how you respond rather than react, and in your comfort with not having the last word. When you stop proving, you stop over-explaining. You allow your statements to stand. This creates authority. Authority is not granted by others, it is claimed through self-trust. Grounding reinforces that trust. It tells you that you don't need to rush or perform to be taken seriously. Grounding also sharpens awareness. Instead of focusing outward on how you're being perceived, attention shifts inward to alignment. Are your words matching your intent? Is your tone reflecting your values? This alignment strengthens authenticity. Authenticity, in turn, strengthens confidence. Another shift happens in how you handle disagreement. Proving leads to argument. Grounding leads to clarity. When grounded, you don't feel threatened by opposing views. You can listen without losing yourself. This calm openness signals strength, not passivity. Grounding also reduces emotional reactivity. Emotions still arise, but they don't take control. You notice them, regulate them, and choose your response. This choice is empowering. It reinforces the belief that you can handle situations without losing composure. Importantly, grounding doesn't require withdrawing or becoming quiet. It means speaking from a settled place. You still assert boundaries, you still express opinions, but you do so without urgency or fear. That absence of urgency is confidence. As you practice grounding, others respond differently. They interrupt less. They challenge with more respect. They sense that you are not easily shaken. This feedback loop reinforces internal confidence. You trust yourself more because your experience confirms your steadiness. Over time, confidence becomes less about performance and more about presence. You no longer measure it by how persuasive you sound or how quickly you respond. You measure it by how grounded you feel. And that grounded feeling becomes the foundation for genuine confidence that doesn't need to be proven.